Welcome to the Purpose Driven Person Show. I'm Matthew Cox, your host. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. Check us out on Facebook, also on YouTube, and go to iTunes. Like us, follow us, so every time we hit one of these shows, you are notified when a new episode hits. We are here every Thursday. A new episode is posted. Go to our website, purposedrivenpersonshow.com. You can follow us there as well. And welcome to the show this week. So if you tuned in last week, we talked about what is the best business for 2021 to start. I went through some options. I talked about what it would look like in your area. But the biggest thing I want to talk about for this episode is why it's so important to see the trends that are coming in 2021. So business itself, in this series, we were talking about all about business. And I want you to understand business is just not brick and mortar, selling services, selling items. It's also a home. If you're running a home, you're running a business. Income comes in, income goes out. It's the same concept if you have an idea and start a business or a kind of store, or you're into some product that you're selling. That is a business model that we see naturally. When you say business, we think of business or storefront. And what I'm trying to help you understand as you're listening to this show is for everybody and anybody. If you have an idea, you're an entrepreneur. If you're running a home, you're an entrepreneur, because you have to be creative in the way you budget, the way you manage, and the way you see things. So in 2020, what a year. We talked about that. So I'm going to be talking about 2021. There's some things we have to look at that's going on in 2021. Right now, what's going on is we just are coming out of, we're not out of it, but we're kind of seeing things opening and back up. The pandemic's still here. We're just starting to kind of open back up in certain states. We're seeing a huge confusion when it comes to this mask mandate, where it's either you wear it, you don't, you go into certain places, you don't. I had an interesting experience today with Uber. As I was driving Uber, I got in, and the first Uber I didn't have a mask. And then the second Uber, he pulled up, and I didn't have a mask, and he drove off. He didn't even let me take a minute to go grab one. It was just like either you have it or you don't. So it's really confusing. In some businesses, they're like, who cares? Costco, they don't care. Well, it's really an interesting model. And I think there's a design to it. There's a design to cause confusion. And, business is no different than the mask, the confusion that can occur. And here's the confusion we're hitting as a society. And I want you to talk about, one of the things when it comes to society in America, we're based on what's called capitalism. And capitalism is given to where anybody can come in and have an idea and come from nothing to something. Doesn't matter what it is. Many, many years ago, this wasn't the case. Like when back in the different classes, back in, say, the time of the ages when it was nobles, clergy, and peasants. If you remember those, there was only 3 classes. And if you were born into those classes, you got to experience those classes for the rest of your life. So if I was a nobleman, that's where I would remain. If I was a clergy, that's where I'd remain. If I was a peasant, I would never go up. I would always stay at that level. And there was no increasing or decreasing. You stayed there. And that's how the classes worked way, 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 way back then. And it's not as if it is, that is no more. So the way it's designed now, I can come from anywhere. I can come from poverty and have an idea, and I can become a millionaire. Just to kind of help you understand, there's 18.6 millionaires in the US today. And look at the numbers here. And I just want to drive home, because again, way, way, way back in the day, that was the class system, right? So at 18.6 millionaires, and you want to look at that, 80% of them are self-made. They came from somewhere, some lower poverty, and they came from nothing and became something. 20% of them, or it was given, it was an inheritance. They took it from somebody, it came from somebody. And that's really an interesting statistic, because what it's telling you is that we're not in the time of the nobles and the clergy and the peasants. It's now different. You can come from anywhere and come and be something. If you have a good idea and you understand that business, this is where a free market capitalism, it really helps. This is what America was based on. And if you don't understand this concept, what's really hurting us right now in 2021 when we're entering into this market, which I saw the trend coming, is the unemployment. Now that we're opening back up, we're starting to become more open. We're seeing things. People do not want to go back to work. There's still a little bit of fear. There's still a little bit of choice. And what's happening, what it's causing, smaller businesses that depend on certain workforces, they're having to close their door, like restaurants, small mom and pop shops that were open for centuries, that were home-based businesses, family businesses, had to finally shut their door because they can't get anybody to come in and take those jobs. And so what's going to occur, and this is what happens when something like that happens, when you come out of a recession or a pandemic, is recession's going to occur. And it's already happening. And you see little signs of the recession, since nobody wants to take jobs. See, depression, when the Great Depression hit, there was no jobs. It was that we hit bankruptcy. So right now, what we're doing, what they're doing is printing fun money. They're printing free money. They're printing money that has no value. And when you overprint, you overproduce. It's very basic economics, and people can see it. You're seeing the gas go up. You're seeing things spike. You're going to see costs. You're going to see cost of living rise. Doesn't matter how much you raise the minimum wage, because that is kind of an interesting concept. Well, I'm here for the people. I'm going to raise minimum wage. It doesn't matter. So let's say in Nevada you raise it, cost of living goes up. It doesn't matter. So if you're making a good wage and cost of living's down, there has to be a balance. And the only way is to get the market healthy, where it was almost before the pandemic. It was really getting to that point where cost of living was starting to go down. And so if my wages are here, cost of living, if you drive the cost of living down, then wealth goes into the pockets. Not let's take it from here and here and there and put it everywhere. It doesn't work. This is the same song we've seen for centuries and centuries, and it's really going to hurt the fabrics of what America was based on. And that's what I wanted to really base the show on today. So the statistics are 80% self-made, successful people came from nothing. 80%. That's 18.6 million of them, millionaires. From 80%, they came from nothing, from all different backgrounds. Ethics, it doesn't matter. They came from every different background, and you can see their stories. It's really cool to watch them and go research a lot of these entrepreneurs, these forefront people that came in and had an idea. They came from other countries. They were immigrants. They were people from different parts of the country that just came and took their bootstraps and just went to work and did amazing things. So I love the statistics like that. Now, if you're seeing the pandemic, some things are going to be staying. I went over the crisis and what we're seeing economically that's going to really hurt us. But a lot of things are not going to change. The way we have adapted and done things, normal is not going to be normal anymore. And you got to look at the trends. If you're looking at business and what you're going to do, those trends have to be taken in consideration, because the way we're doing meetings, the way we're doing things, the way we're working from home, the way corporations are going to look at those things and see, hey, we don't need the brick and mortar. Colleges are going to look at that and say, wow, we were away from it for a while. Maybe this concept of the huge brick and mortar, maybe we go all online and get rid of, maybe Harvard will say, get rid of the campus. But, it's so historic, they probably won't. But those a lot of them are going to say, wow, it's not worth having these facilities where we can just go all online, and it's more profitable to do that education wise than maintaining all these buildings. Robotics is going to be introduced. So a lot of robotics where now you don't have to touch, and the germophobic era has begun. And so you're going to see it. I saw this on Facebook. It was really interesting that they're creating kiosks to make your health shakes with robots that nobody touches it. Interesting concept. It was on Kickstarter, one of those startups. And it's all human free. You just come up with an app, it makes it, pushes it out, nobody touches it. So a lot of things, delivery services. So one of the things, information is the money maker right now with this shift. If you have the information, you are going to have the ability to pass on. That's why platforms like Tweet, Facebook, is it Twitter? Yeah, Twitter, I said that. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Those are all platforms that have the most valuable thing is the information. So they're selling your information off. They're selling things. That's where you're the money maker, you're the decision maker. You are the influencer. So it is really what you want. And it's always looking at what is there to buy? Why am I filling that services? So a lot of these new things that are popping up, a lot of them will go under because it's not scalable. It's very trendable. And then some are going to stay, some will stick, but a lot of people won't know how to scale them to where they need to. And delivery services, holy smokes, this industry off the charts right now. It's not even at its peak. Everything is going to go online. Amazon, it is the biggest, but a lot of people are getting into the game on as far as delivery services. Walmart is there for competitor. They're not going to give up. They are going to compete, and they're trying to gear up for that. They just got a new CEO that's really very innovative. That's really going to push out a lot of that stuff. They're going to really go after that market and compete. So it's going to be interesting. But I'm telling you, if you want to get into delivery services, maybe buy a route from I think DSL or one of those. I can't remember what there are, different types of deliveries, or come up with some ways. I know that Amazon came up where it was an interesting concept, 30,000 to buy in, and you could buy a route. I think you had to have so much in the bank as well. But it was an interesting little trend there. A lot of people are getting into it and realizing there's not as much money from Amazon because Amazon's not passing that on. So their delivery truck people have to have multiple routes to make it, some other things. So dig into that. Make sure you do your research. But delivery services are going to be huge. It doesn't need to be through a big carrier. If you have the means, you can start your own delivery service. Look at what are options. Maybe you can buy a route that's very successful and get into it and make sure that you can get that down. So 2021, holy smokes, lots of things going on. But I'm going to end with this, and this is a pretty short, straight to the point, where you should look at. And if you have these skill set, I would maximize it. I would look into it. I would leverage it. But the greatest service that you can start looking at is marketing and social media marketing. So concept, building, marketing, building out, getting products from conception to marketing, but more on a social media platform, influencer platform, heading down that is really where it's heading. And again, information is the power right now. So if you have the information, you will have the inside market of what's going on. So that's why these social media platforms have a lot of information they're using to work against us, not for us. And so you really have to look at the trends and what's going on, and see all the opportunities that are coming up. And I really am advocating on this show is that socialism, capitalism, how was the threads of America based upon? I'm just kind of really pushing it to where we have to have a free enterprise to where they can have entrepreneurs, people coming from all different walks and making it happen. And as that thread of what, I have a brother that was a Marine, what those guys fought for from early on, and to making America what it is now, not the history, not the, let's get into, oh my gosh, it's what do we have right now? 70, so much different ways that you could, slice it, is that you have to look at the reality of this. I can come from nothing and make something. You can't do that. I was just talking to a friend from our neighboring country, Canada, good friend. Not the situation over there. A whole different system. He was telling me how it doesn't work, that socialistic medicine does not work, and they're shut down still because it would overwhelm the system. Even though we struggled, even though we had a huge hit, not saying that we were perfect, but in most cases, we come together. We figure it out. And I think we did have a tough run for it, but at the end of the day, tons of capitalistic people that have free market space pitched in and helped out. A lot of big corporations helped out. There was a lot of people sending certain funding that had the ability to do it here in the US. And we did a lot of stuff that behind the scenes that don't get put on the media, and they're not pushing it out. And so I want to get into business moving forward is going to be different. So if you take anything away from this show, it's not going to be the same as we think. The normal is not normal. A lot of ways we're doing business are going to stick, and some things will come back, but a lot of the ways we interact is going to be different. And the different things I want to really drive home is looking at the trends of the market. And right now, new businesses need an influx of people coming with how to get their product in front of people, because you went from half the people being online to everybody being online to now you're going to take that and try to go backwards. How is that going to calculate? How is that going to work? So people that usually weren't online, it went from very minimal to 100% online. It kicked it up like overnight. So for 1 year, everybody in the whole world has been being online. So you got to really think about that trend in 2021. What's that going to look like? How can I look at, do I need a brick and mortar, or can I work on certain things that can come from content creation, on developing something, looking at different trends and what is in the marketplace, and how can I solve a need? All right, guys, that is the show I wanted to really push. Make sure you understand as you take it away that anybody can become something, and you come from whatever. As a growing up as a with a single mom, losing our father when we were younger, being a short bus kid that read and writes at a fourth grade level still at this day, um, I pushed, I struggled, and I persevered, and I came from nothing to something. And I fight every day, even though wherever you might be in that level, is you got to keep that position and keep working towards what you want to keep, whatever you create. And it comes from it. Nobody said, hey, go do it, it's going to be easy. I think the greatest thing that I ever heard is, if it was that easy, everybody would do it. And my concern when somebody tries to make it so easy that everybody, there is no participation trophies. I mean, I was a competitive athlete for years. I played soccer for high school, and then I played for college. and then I coached at a club level for college. And one thing I learned is there's there's there is not trophies for everybody. It's those that work hard and you show up for game day, you're going to put the goals in the back of the net. And those that choose not to show up, and I see it a lot as an employer, as a leader, people just choose not to show up because we're creating a very entitled situation here. The soft and hard skills are one away. When I was a coach, I've seen many things where players would show up and just think, "Hey, I'm that good. I should be entitled. Give me." Isn't that what we're doing right now as a society? Give me, give me, give me. When we should say, "Hey, it's time to go back and let's get things going back and let's jump back in and let's support one another." And that's what you got to look at, because at the end of the day, don't create a participation trophy. Everybody that has, again, statistics, 18.6 million millionaires, 80% of the 80%, guys, 80% are self-made. Now, what does that mean, self-made? You might be sitting going, what's that mean? That means they worked their butts off from the bottom and went up. I had a good teacher, and this is what I'll end on. He was the vice president of Coca-Cola, John Colbert. He was a great teacher. He was my first business teacher at a little college called Dixie College in St. George, Utah. And John told me this. He says he started from the bottom. Oh, it's a song. I started from the bottom and worked my way up, right? You can finish the lyrics. And so the biggest thing is he started at selling tires. He started delivering I think he worked on the docks of Coca-Cola. He sold tires. He did everything. He worked his way up, and he ended up being a vice president of one of the biggest companies in the world. And I remember sitting there, and I'd always show up to business class or my class with him, and I'd sit in the front row because this guy had something to teach. I ended up becoming good friends with him, and even he helped me in a lot of projects. I asked him to be a mentor, and he taught me one thing. He says, the biggest thing is, he goes, you just got to show up. And he says, I hated selling tires. I hated doing those things, but I knew I was heading somewhere. And he worked his way up. And he didn't say, oh, poor me, and oh, this and that. He just says, I had to work, and it wasn't fair. Some things, he says, just because I was this person, I didn't get it handed. And it's the same thing I would tell everybody here. Business is not easy. Work is not easy. A job is not easy. Running a home is not easy. But at the end of the day, it's worth it. And you have to step back and you have to decide, am I going to have grit or am I going to give up? And that's where I think we are as a country. And that's where we are as when it comes to business. Where are we? Are we going to say, hey, enough is enough. Let's get back to work and let's get this economy back to where it is? Because when working, and it's just like a house, and this is the simple concept. Income comes in, income goes out. Right now, if you look as America as one big house, income goes out. That's all that's happening right now. So when we get back to work and we start helping the economy by income comes in, income goes out, income comes in, you're going to see inflation goes down, cost of living goes down, and it starts balancing out. It's all that. This whole concept, I'm going to raise this, I'm going to do that, it's going to be an interesting 4 years. So when it comes to this kind of concept, it is I just remember economics 101, it doesn't work. We've been down this road many times. I encourage you, small business owners, let's keep pushing. You entrepreneurs, don't give up. And everybody else, let's get going. Let's get some ideas. Let's get to work. And that's what I have for this show. 2021 is, where's the economy? Bootstraps, work your way up, and 80% self-made. Take care, guys. Hope to hear a comment. Go to the comments, like this, share it. Let's get it out. And I'll see you next time. Take care. I'm Matthew Cox, your host, and you're listening to the Purpose Driven Person Show. See you later.